Hello and welcome to another modelling video. This is Alan from the modelminutes at YouTube with another Q&A session. Last week I've requested you guys to give me a few questions and today I will answer them. A few things have happened during that time. We don't necessarily have a lot of questions, though a few things to address and adjust throughout the channel, including the big sweeping partnership changes made by YouTube and Google. So this is a bit of a case post-apocalypse of YouTube being bashed a bit, and headlines and titles reading that small channels are getting screwed. In light of what's happening is YouTube is making policy changes regarding the partnership program, which gives you a share of the monetization or ad revenue that's generated from the amount of views and hours watched of your content. What in fact is happening is YouTube is reporting any channel that is existing in the program that has less than 1,000 subscribers and less in the past 12 months 4,000 hours watched of their total content will be cut from the program. There is a bit of a grace period until sometime in February. Any outstanding amount sitting in the AdSense account will be cashed out, and they will be free to reapply once they've reached that threshold, though they will have to go through more hoops and bounds and requirements to get into the partnership program to prevent not so great content. I do not think this is going to personally affect many, as at that rate of hours watched, I would estimate such a channel would probably earn about 10 to 20 USD a year, and with the threshold needing to be $50 to $100 before you're cashed out, it just doesn't really seem to be worthwhile to anybody playing in the game. As long as the tag system and algorithm is fair and people are due their fair views in association to how they engage their subscribers, there really isn't much in a way you could complain about the service, besides the fact that there is ample hosting and traffic that you're able to generate for your channel that's absolutely free and paid for via the ads placed next to, above and side of your video. So no complaints from me, and due to the size and watch hours I do have, it's a multitude higher than the limit for the cutoff, so I'm absolutely unaffected. I am, however, sympathetic to channels that do not quite meet the cut, that may be newer to the game or starting out, and it can be very difficult doing the grind every week or every kit you finish and being greeted to very few views. I was there a very long time ago and willing to share my platform to give a couple a shout out to hopefully carry them over the threshold, or just help them out a bit. If you do come across smallish scale model videos, watch one or two entire videos to help get their hours out. Leave a comment to be very encouraging. They can see that people are out there consuming their content, and it balances out all the bad media that the platform does not necessarily pay attention to them. If the content creator is feeling optimistic, they're going to make more and even better content. If you do feel inclined to do so, support them in whatever capacity you wish, including further interaction, the whole Patreon deal, or subscribing and all that. It would be much appreciated to them in this current climate. I've personally seen and experienced all of this before over the years, but it can be pretty unnerve-wracking to some. That one really positive comment left every now and then on a video can make a a huge difference to that particular creator. I did a call out on Facebook around Sunday. Any channel that wished to have a shout out, and I had two come forward. I had a look at them, and the work is pretty good. These guys take their craft seriously, and definitely worth a look in or a few videos. It is a tad of a mix. First we have Model Minutes. Now the gentleman behind this channel was found in the YouTube modeling Facebook group. He seems to do quite a few bits and pieces, kit reviews where he builds them, paints them up, shows all the steps and methods and all of that, and very small bite-sized videos that are very fun, easy to consume and watch. Very knowledgeable. You will pick up quite a few things, and it's just a classic fun way of finishing models. Definitely have a watch. Kamm is in the same group, and other places all over the mecha community. Some of the guys who has been around here for a while would have known or heard about his work. He has returned to the hobby and YouTube channel for the first time in a very long time. He may have the subscriber base, though due to a lack of published content, I wouldn't imagine he would be up to the 4,000 hours. His models and work is absolutely astounding. One of my favorite styles in modifying and just giving it that real gritty look. His content is definitely worthwhile watching. He's easy to interact with, and it is a channel that is very worthwhile sticking around with. Great personality to boot. TheKrowSama, I think that's right, or known as Little Big Gunpla, approached me on another Facebook page. He told me that there are other Gundam review channels that are banding together and trying to do the same thing, self-promote each other. With the review side of thing, I'm not into building the kits out of the box with no paint and demonstrating its posability and its gimmicks. Though with just the amount of channels trying to be the first to jump on a kit and do that insane grind, it's as competitive as the video game market. So he does have a personality to it and a very clean cut, high production value. If the out of the box Gundam reviews is your sort of thing, that is probably a channel worthwhile, and he looks like he's trying to support the others out there to boot. And the final shout out for the video is the Mecha Lounge has come to Facebook as a group. Simon and the guys have set up a shop, and once you sign up and have a look and a bit of a scroll, you're going to see quite a few serious and very creative, intense builds in paint, finish or modifications. There's a lot of styles that you'll probably fall in love with. Excellent opportunities to ask questions, pick brains, or study work in progress builds to gain inspiration for your own projects. If you feel inclined, definitely share. And it's just a throwback to the old forum days. I believe the Mecha Lounge forums is also still active, and that is very worthwhile having a look at to boot and contribute if you like the old days of forums. It's just a different era of signing up to a website, being familiar with the community and group, posting on different boards that are itemized and archived very well for searching and looking into, particularly if you are hunting for tutorials. If you are new to the hobby, it is very worthwhile trying to find some of these archive groups, having a look in the tutorial or how to section, have a bit of a dig. Though back then what you would have to do is upload your pictures to an image service like PhotoBucket, get the URL for it and edit it into the text box, put the correct codes around it, and when you put in your text and links to websites or social media, YouTube, it would all appear there and people would comment underneath as well. that was the sort of environment I was involved in when I started the Gundam aspect in my journey of the hobby, and I hung around a lot of these groups for many years, grinding and pumping work out of the same handle I'm using today. It was also instrumental and unique to building this YouTube channel, which is an era long gone, unfortunately. Now, before we kick things off, I received quite a bit of criticism in the Tamir Lacquer video that my workspace is filthy and there's paint marks and I'm not looking after my health. Now, what we're looking at here is I rearranged and cleaned my spraying area, so I've got so much more space. And what happened is where the paint rack is here is used to be where the booth is, and the booth is over there. So everything has tilted and you're looking at a different direction, but realistically the paint build-up has always been on this desk and this desk only. I've been painting at this desk for more than 10 years, and even though I clean it of dust and whatnot very regularly, it's going to stay around. Now, another thing about my spray booth, people think that's the filter and it's clogged and it's absolutely disgusting. What it actually is a honeycomb of cardboard. Behind it is a carbon filter about this big, 4 to 5 inches by 4 to 5 inches. That is replaced very frequently, dusted very frequently, and it works very well. I also wear a mask every time I spray, so it's an M3 gas particle vapor mask. It's new to the old blue silicone one I used to have, and it performs very well. It was actually quite cheap, so if there's any interest, I will review some of my safety equipment. Let me know in the comment section below. Down to the first question. The clerk says, do you suffer from model kit making burnout? How do you prevent that? I do. It is fairly common, especially with Gunpla. I find that a lot of the type or grouping of kits are very similar, and when you're cutting, modifying, cleaning them up, removing the nubs, filling the seam lines, many different cluster of kits are practically identical or almost exactly the same, besides the color and some surface detail, parts, weapons, extra. I mean, a HGUC Zaku is a HGUC Zaku. Some has bazookas, some have different parts, and when you go to the Origin stuff and whatnot, they have a lot of common components that are from the F2, so the process of assembling it is very similar. If you go to a GM, it is different, but it has the same amount of joints, similar polycaps. The whole process is exactly the same. And it's not very uncommon to get bored or burn out or not want to finish a kit or a selection of kits. People buy a lot up and then they sell after a time. One of the most common things I always hear is when someone's bashing on with a master grade or a perfect grade, once they reach the weapons, they don't really want to continue anymore. They've been snapping at it for many hours, or if they're taking it further, they've spent days to weeks cleaning, filling seam lines, all of that sort of thing. So it just drags on, and for your first few it's exciting, it's a new process, though once you've had a couple under your belt, unless you're changing grades to something that's fresh and unique like real grades or the Iron-Blooded Orphan range, you're just going to stagnate really heavily. Now, how I normally get over this, and unfortunately what has been the case, is I've been putting out very little in the way of Gundam kits over the years, to the point where it's only about 3 to 4 models at this rate. Sort of want to pick up that number up, though I diversify the interests and types and styles of models that I build, and I'll normally have multiple projects going on, normally 2, 3 that are very active, and one particular one that I'm focused on. Once I start to feel very bored with Gunpla, I will either rotate around to resin kits or resin figures, and rotate again to my 72nd armor or tanks. Some of the time that some of the Gunpla kits that I spend that much time kit bashing, changing and scratch building, it becomes something in of itself, as well as other projects where something like my Mecha Musume or toy builds, or something that's really far out there that I just get multiple materials. Sometimes it's a lot of Gunpla, a bit of styrene sheeting, and I chop it up, putty, mix, match and crunch it together to create something that's unique and a lot of fun and free flowing. It's more so coming out of the imagination than focusing on the out of the box aspect of the kit. My advice when avoiding burnouts or getting very close, taking a break from the hobby is not necessarily the answer. You can fall into a rut such as video games or something else that's the path of least resistance, and enjoy more of a lazier life that's not so inspired, or you're not motivated to be building or doing something with your hands. Try something new. Have multiple interests. Focus on your Gunpla, your scale and what you really want to do, and have something on the side, be it tanks, planes, figures, miniatures, anime statues, resin, RC, building electronics or Arduinos, and it can even stem a little out of modeling and crossing over into something that's also equally just as artistic, such as drawing, painting, open airbrushing, modifying, creating, cosplaying. There's 1001 very creative outlooks that you can head in that's within the modeling world and that's outside, and every time you return to Gunpla, even if it's a month or two break or multiple weeks break while working on a different ambitious creative outlet, the hobby is fresh and exciting all over again. Keep alternating. Another crazy way of burning out is going for overly ambitious projects and keep grinding it, mostly due to a deadline such as a competition, and not resting on it or cutting your losses. I've been working on the mass production Cube LA for the Gunpla Builders World Cup everyone's been aware of, and I've ambitiously been scratch building, casting items in resin, experimenting with methods and techniques I've never done before, and trying to perfect it and incorporate it into a competition build. I hit a few technical snags. I hit the biggest snag, that was my confidence and losing interest in the build due to the dramas and the rule set of the Gunpla Builders World Cup. And after a bit of damage near finish and displaying, I've shelved it almost indefinitely. Now, back a bit about the channel. I know a lot of you were following that build with excitement and whatnot, and disappointed that I have dropped it and potentially may not see it. I have picked it up again, funnily enough, this week, and polishing the few parts that got damaged. This picture is going to be the cover image for a video I'm making on repairing and polishing surfaces in case you damage the finish or paint. The left is the damage from the competition, the right is me polishing it and re-clear coating it. It's going to be finished shortly and on public display in Melbourne, Australia during the launch of a new hobby shop opening. That's going to be big news. Not going to talk about who it is, where it is yet, though it will be published on this channel shortly. And once that shop opens, I'm going to release this kit into a video. Next question, Lee Gallup. Are you in the GBA, Gunpla Builders Association? No, I'm not a current member. Are you going to participate in the GBA contest? I'm not aware of the contest or competition. I'll give it a plug. And what do you think of Gunpla communities like the GBA or other similar communities? And lastly, what is your opinion on P-bandai? We'll address the third one now. My experience with the Gunpla Builders Association was early this year. I was doing a Twitch stream and experimenting on that platform, and they did a large raid. They seemed to be very interested in streaming side of things as well as other people's output. Plugged it in their group, and I had about half a dozen people chatting and contributing. They were very, very nice and look out for the better of the community, enjoyment of the hobby, and help each other improve and teach each other methods and whatnot. Things that I can definitely stand behind, and from what I saw from that example, really spot on, can definitely support it. A few of them do claim to be followers of my content and were familiar with me, so anybody who is a viewer, colleague, I'm a friend of your community, and if there's any way I can be involved, you guys are more than welcome to contact me, and I can help out in whatever capacity is possible with my time and platform. These guys from this question do have a competition. I have linked in the description with the rest of the shout outs the website, Gunpla Builders Association.jp. The website does seem to be under construction, though there is links to the Instagram, the Facebook, the YouTube, and a button for the Discord. So I would assume if you have a look at the Discord, that would lead you to where all the action is currently at. And lastly, what is your opinion on P-bandai? P-bandai is a small wing to the Bandai hobby division, known as Premium Bandai. It has been around for as long as the Gundam line and is traditionally referred to as Gentai kits or Gentai model kits. A trend that started off by Hasegawa, where you'd get an original tooling or moulding of your model and add a few extra parts, decals, recolor it, that sort of thing. So it's been around for 20-30 years, and you'll notice certain Gentai kit Gundams from the Bandai catalogue are not included, and when they turn up in auctions or websites, they've got the little P sticker, including the whole B Club line of resin kits that is under that banner. Now, over the past few years, Bandai has rebranded and redone their premium Bandai line and decided to market it purely online, and a few Gunpla Builders World Cup nations do limited runs that are ordered through a certain distributor or off the premium Bandai website in Japan, where the whole line is. The Japanese market really do enjoy very limited run, limited items in hobby and the anime scene of collecting, and there'll normally be an event with a very special item, and people line up or go gangbusters to get it, either to resell and scalp or to add to a collection as some sort of status thing. It has been caught in the rest of the world, and there's great demand for these, which has been addressed and slowly being couriered out of the country. It was initially to be only a Japanese release thing, though the line has been selling so well with reprints. They're not as limited or hard to get as the Gentai special event or super limited or hard to get promotional kits, which still runs in its own Gentai line, such as the 7-Eleven edition kits that are only sold in those stores, or the Gundam Front kits that are only sold at certain locations or events. So some people can confuse them with the usual premium Bandai online range, though that can easily be added to their collection. So P-bandai is generally in the real world this massive blanket wing to the hobby division, though what everyone is talking about, excluding the off-catalogue special branded ANA 711 event Gundam Expo stuff, the pastel coloured boxes that are widely available and fairly easy to get from parallel import or export websites. These are general release kits that would occasionally have a runner of extra parts, a special base, special gimmick or special decals, and almost guaranteed that the runners themselves are coloured differently or contain a special coating or transparent plastic. The recoloured standard edition kits, or maybe the inclusion of an extra runner of a small part or edition, have very little interest to me. These are more marketed to people that are serious collectors that would have a different colour scheme built that's based off the anime, manga, video game source material, or a variant of mobile suit that is of the same type that is not exactly going to be released to the main line. Occasionally they'll do a substantial sculpt to a master grade by making a GN cannon or enough of an upgrade to be its own unique kit with its own unique parts. Normally these kits would get so many re-releases over time that in the far future it has not been unheard of them becoming a main normal line and a way to test the waters. Whatever Bandai offers, normally I can achieve by myself through painting, modifying, scratch building. There is a few instances that I am excited enough to attempt to hunt one down or build it. An example is the current project that I'm working on with the Providence. It comes with a very nifty and interesting base that I want to go all out and model it into something that's quite spectacular and unique. I also wouldn't mind the Fumina full armoured Gundam version, as there's enough parts that it turns it into its own unique and interesting kit, even though it's borrowed from a complete other model with probably some unique parts. I'm not too familiar, I have not explored it closely enough. In my travels I have picked up a few P-bandai kits. 90% of them would definitely be old vintage resin B-Club conversion kits or full model kits. A couple of them are event. I do have a token couple of 711 kits, an ANA unicorn, which is crazy rare. They cut production after the big tsunami. And one of my most personal favourite is the Pachinko first grade RX-78 that comes with a single runner with a single part that has an open palm hand that holds a Pachinko ball and references it on the box. This is so rare and unusual you'd have to win a certain amount of balls to cash it in. It is so bizarre, obscure, rare and weird. I can't even find a picture of it online, and since it's buried somewhere I'm not going to pull it out, though trust me, I definitely have it. Now, as a courtesy, as someone has pulled me out and got me to talk about P-bandai, it has to be mentioned that there is an exporter called the Tokyo Model Detective based out in Japan. Me and a few friends among the Gunpla Builders Australia community has had trouble and issues with this interesting individual. I do not like him, though I definitely do enjoy taunting him over the harassment and bullying of our good mate Tristan. So yeah, mate, not a fan of you, and we'll always call you out on your bullshit. Next question by John. Have you tried Badger's Stylus acrylic primers? What are your thoughts? Have you tried any Badger airbrushes? doing a bit of research, and I was interested in doing a review on their primer and paints to fill out my catalogue more so people are a bit more aware. Their products are water-based polyurethane, very similar to your Migamo and Vallejo, all that sort of jazz. If that is your shtick and works out, it is going to be ideal and work like anything else really out there. A bit of water with a touch of detergent is not a bad thinner. If you can get your hands on actual polyurethane mix thinner, it will be a tad smooth. Be very mindful of the cleanliness of your airbrush and just have one that's dedicated to polyurethane based product only, and wash out with water. I am personally not a fan of polyurethane. I find it does not adhere to surfaces very well, except for vinyl, rubbery type things. Not bad for toy painting and that jazz. In the way of the airbrushes, they tend to be very expensive, being United States manufactured and imported. I would assume that they are very readily available over there, including parts. Now, Badger did do a promotion not long ago for a birthday anniversary, and their factory has decided to sell all airbrushes at about $50 plus minimal cost in shipping. I shared this on the Mecha page. It was a one day only. Anyone that jumped on it, good on you. You scored a very, very cheap airbrush. I have purchased 2 of them and waiting for the payment details to send that across. Once shipped, you can bet I'm definitely going to put them through the ringer in pulling them apart, reviewing them, checking out for parts, doing lines, all of that sort of stuff. I have a lot of friends who are senior modelers, been in the game for 20-30 years, and they swear by the sleek professionalism of them and how they can do amazingly fine lines and detail and whatnot. It is considered a professional graphic artist's tool. Probably buying the really fine ones for super detailed work would be ideal. The general use stuff would not be that much better than some of the cheaper stuff on the market, so would not consider it a workhorse, though definitely something for finer work. Watch this space. I'll do an updated if it definitely comes through the mail. I understand thousands of people jumped on this opportunity for a cheap Badger airbrush at factory cost price. Now for our anonymous questions. The first one, the cheapest way to get into airbrushing. Honestly, after my testing and experimenting, entering airbrushing and getting equipment for it has dropped in price and been so widely available and mass produced that it's not funny. You can get these Heising made airbrushes for next to nothing. Be very careful that reputable companies and other resellers will badge them and mark them as a much higher quality product. Iwata and a few others are known to do this, so just buying them directly off eBay or anywhere else that would not sell them for any more than 10 to 20 US dollars is ideal. You can buy these small piston compressors for under $100, and you can buy the one with the tank for a little more due to weight, shipping, and extra material. So that's an stand and all your consumables. Just make sure that the airbrush is a double action gravity fed. Don't go for any of the siphon feds or side feeds or anything strange. Those airbrushes just take so much longer to maintain and not as healthy. You can mix your own paints by buying large quantities of automotive lacquer, thinning them down and running them through your airbrush to cut extra cost, as well as using large quantities of lacquer thinner. And if you are really struggling or only have such a tiny amount of space, these King Max and other 12 volt tiny plastic compressors are just absolutely perfect. I've been rolling with one off-site and using it occasionally, and it doesn't seem to burn out, heat up and whatnot. And from feedback from other people that bought them as their main rig, have been extremely happy in its all capacity. I'm coming across hobbyists in the third world that are using this equipment and mixing their own paint. So in the end, if you can afford any sort of model kit or gunpla, even third party, you can afford to save up and put some money aside and eventually buy one of these rigs. If you do enough hunting around, bargain shopping and whatnot, you can find one that is very cheap. Don't worry about brands, and I've got ample amount of videos on how to maintain and get the very best performance out of these cheap pieces of equipment. Now, I saw this in a thread on Facebook, one of the large groups. Found it so funny, so I just wanted to talk about it. Anonymous? Okay, you know what? I might as well ask a stupid question about one of Shah's mobile suits. Why the frig hell does the Nightingale have a freaking crotch tube thing on its front of the waist unit? I mean, really? The whole thing's a Sazabi on steroids. I know that the design's supposed to be excessive in comparison to the high-new sleek silhouettes, but come on. Who's the wise guy who suggested that be on a mobile armor looking mobile suit? Now, naturally, with a Facebook gunpla community and due to the age and stuff, things got very crass and immature very quickly and amusing. It was pointed out other mobile suits had large protruding horns, thrusters, manipulators and all sorts of things coming out, and absolutely confused from balance to what other weird theories were going out there. The most accurate or common yet boring answer is the mobile suits from the original series and onwards throughout the other shows and variations are loosely based off warriors from ancient times to medieval, late Renaissance. Their kit, weapons, fighting style, even firearms. Each element of armor, time period, and culture is adapted to different designs, factions, and whatnot. When we study the standard kit outfitted to soldiers, knight, armor, mail, that sort of thing, during the period, that particular part of armor that would cover the groin or genitals would be known as a codpiece. In Middle English, according to Wikipedia, cod referring to scrotum, a flap that would go over there. Now, funnily enough, they would start off as boiled leather and would be a bit of a fashion accessory for mercenaries during the Crusade era. May not be the earliest variant, though it would be used in a way of distracting or enraging religious or conservative enemies, and a way of hiding your coin and personal possessions there. Come to the Renaissance period, they got quite elaborate and outright designed and sculpted to look like an erect penis. And for many reasons, you could use this for courtship, for picking up women, being quite funny and horsing around the guys, offending, getting attention, having a strap-on like item right in front of you as you're gallivanting in public or events was a very appropriate style of high fashion among the elite and the affluent class. By today's standards, very humorous. Wow, I'm surprised how long this video is going for. Thought it would struggle to crack 20 minutes. A bit of a pre channel announcements before the big one that is coming up that I've been alluding and teasing for a while. Final information will be coming out at some point. I have started 2 Facebook groups. I was the moderator or admin of a few of them, and left the majority of them while doing a restructure of my lifestyle, hobby, work, all of that sort of thing. And will keep myself exclusively to these 2 while surfing and cruising other ones and just spreading out goodwill and content and whatnot. The Mecha study group is just going to be a general place. I coach and help a lot of people in private message and around the place. If you wish to interact with me, jump in here and I'm happy to help look at posts and just carry on any topic that you guys find interesting and exciting. It can range from general interest to mostly scale modelling, compare sales, post work, evaluate, help, share, critique, all that sort of thing, share ideas, share techniques. Just a place for people to come with the intention to help or to learn and improve and just focus on any aspect of the hobby. So join and be free. It's no rules or anything in that sort. The second one will be very similar to my private messages with the people who I have chatted to. The second group is the Mecha fundraiser. This has been started, though not active at the moment, so people won't be able to post on it. I do recommend joining it, as once my really huge project hits and is announced, I do need to raise a little further funds for it. I've been working quite hard over the previous year, selling trading kits, importing tools, all that sort of thing, and got a substantial amount of money for the equipment and machinery that I require to buy, set up, use, and all that sort of thing. It's going to be a custom made piece of kit. I do require a little more funds for this to carry on in the timeline that I desire. I do not want to do a Kickstarter, as I'll have to go through a timeline and all this process of promoting and cost that I don't have time for, and would rather create content. And the Patreon, I don't want to put that burden on you guys. That is purely just a tip jar if you feel inclined to throw a couple of dollars towards this content and channel. There will be 4 revenues to participate. I don't want to do a lot of shilling, talking about fundraising, e-begging, selling, or any of that sort of thing on the channel or any of the videos or sponsorship videos or anything. Just want to cut straight into the build, talking, sharing, that sort of thing. I've decided when doing my project shilling, I'm going to stick it to one group. Anyone that wishes to be a part of that can be in there, and it's not really going to be exposed, pushed or forced anywhere else. And under the same thing that I do not like to force my Patreon, I don't want to force anyone or constantly remind people to like or subscribe or comment or any of that sort of thing. So that would be the platform for all of that sort of activity. The outlet that this fundraising group is going to be, and will be later on renamed to merchandise after the project has been completed, will be the selling of existing work and model kits that I have. And it's going to be done in a very interesting and unique way that other commission and modelers are not doing at the moment. So you guys will be pretty excited for that. I have not released anything in past. I'm going to do a loot crate. It's going to be twice a year. And you'll have all sorts of very unique, interesting, intense tools. Some of them that are exclusive to me only, or that I only have access to from the manufacturer or the people with that brand and whatnot. So there'll be a cost, and you'll have a box shipped with all sorts of stuff that will be very relevant to your hobby. That, besides Patreon, which I have a few followers there, and funnily enough have just received my first payout, and that is purely going straight into that project with the tools and consumables and stuff I've been importing. I've been selling and trading secondhand kits and tools in Australia under the Salt Mine Hobby Shop. That has done extremely well, and I've fundraised thousands of dollars towards this. So that is the sort of merchandise that will be going into the loot box. And the last one is an affiliate program. I've been approached by Best Gear early this year, and they wish to work with me and my content. They want to sponsor in a way where I get to choose tools, or they recommend tools that within how many people I can expose to it, and the cost analysis benefits both them and me. I'm going to adapt these unique and exclusive items to my work and channel, find out what works really well, and open the link for you guys to grab them and utilize them for yourself. So this is very exciting. These guys go around Asian manufacturers and find the very best items that are thoroughly reviewed and used by their team of YouTubers and product testers and whatnot, who also affiliate sell. And they undercut everybody else that are also selling similar things, such as Amazon and eBay and all that sort of stuff, though they keep their profit margins quite low and just go through sheer volume. The support has been pretty interesting with some of their electrical stuff that people had trouble, and they had staff on hand in chat to give appropriate support in the way of software and manufacturer instruction in English and a couple of other languages. I highly respect that they're pushing quality products, and after it passes my hands and makes a positive impact on my work at the price they're selling it, it seems to be a pretty good deal. It's not going to be overly forced upon on my content. It's going to be in the 3D printing category of videos that I produce. It's going to be a laser diode cutter, so it'll be in this tiny micro 3D printer bed and do a little bit of laser cutting of paper and material. From my research, it seems to do a good work on paper and masks, so that's going to be pretty sweet for painting. And it should leave a dent in thick enough in 1.5 mil styrene to snap and utilize for scratch building. So if all of this cuts the mustard, pun intended, it's going to be a very fun price for, or very fun product for the price that they're showing me. Besides me utilizing these two new Facebook groups, nothing else is going to change. The content will be exactly the same. It's just for those that want to be involved, perfectly free to be involved, and those who still cherry pick very little bits of my content, or watch certain aspects or utilize certain aspects, you guys are free to do so for as long as you wish, and whatever is useful and what's not, there is no need to consume that or all of it if needed. Thank you very much, guys, for watching, supporting, getting this far. For the guys who watch it to the very end, I hope you feel treated with this little tidbit of information that is coming out, and how things are slowly changing and improving. I'm very excited with how these projects are coming along, and I hope you guys will love them. Thank you very much for watching. As always, until next time, stay tuned for further content. Have a look at the description section. All the links for the shout-outs and what we've talked about will be listed there. At the very bottom of the description section for every video in my catalogue and channel will include links to my Facebook page that I have very recent stuff. So if you missed out on the airbrush sale, you probably should have been looking at my page every day or every other day. Things that I'm currently working on, they won't necessarily make it on the channel for a number of months. The two links to those two different Facebook pages or groups, join only if you feel inclined or wish to do so. And that's about it. Thank you, and catch you guys next time. Thank you for your help and support.